No, Adam,
Okay, Adam.
we gotta be here. They should be here.
Ready to?
Right, Dave? Tom?
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Today is the special meeting for the Ad Hoc Advisory Committee related to the Resource Conservation Districts. Today is Wednesday, March 22nd, and meeting commences today at 2:36 p.m. With that, I'd like to move on to item number 2, which is the roll call by our commission clerk.
Ann Baldridge. Here. Don Butts,
Present.
Julia Escamilla. Absent. Darcy Cook. Frank Hilliger,
Here.
Andy Lau,
Here.
Mary Matava, absent. Dave Neeson. Absent. Amy Reed. Present. There's a quorum.
Thank you. And just for the record, just want to identify LAFCO staff that's here. Obviously, Adam Wilson, moderator, Tammy, our clerk, Erica, who's on monitoring online communications, and Du, who's with our IT. Christina, for the record, perhaps maybe you could introduce yourself as an attendee.
Sure, I'm just an attendee. My name is Christina Cameron. I'm legal counsel for Mission.
And Alex, for the record, could you introduce yourself, please?
Sure. My name is Alex Kirgosin. I'm Deputy General Counsel for LAFCO.
Awesome, thank you. So we'll move on to item 3, which is the agenda review by moderator. That is me. I don't have any changes to the agenda, but I would like to make a quick note. Once again, thank you for all your participation, taking time out of your busy schedules, not just midday, but midweek. So I really don't take that for granted for you guys to come up and make that drive and participate today and continue our efforts. Also, one other quick note, we do have microphones across all tables. If Du or Alex feels that our audio decibel levels have decreased a little, he might raise his hand and ask that you kindly use the microphone. But at this point in time, it seems to be that all our voices are carried. So with that, we'll move on to item 4, which is a public comment. This is an opportunity for any member of the public to provide comments on a non-agenda topic that's germane to this committee. Comments will be limited to 3 minutes. Eric, I'll ask at this time, is there any members of the public online that have registered to speak? So far, none online and seeing none present. That concludes that item. We will now move on to our business items, which are under 5 in subsection 5 letters A through E. 5A is the approval of our action minutes for December 9th, 2022, which was our last meeting in this conference room. The advisory committee will review the draft minutes prepared by the commission clerk for the December 9th, 2022 ad hoc advisory committee meeting. The draft minutes are in action format and are recommended for approval, and I will entertain a motion as sees fit. We got a motion by Frank Hilliger. Does that have a second? Second by Amy. We can do a voice roll call. So all members present that are in favor, vote aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstained? Hearing none. That motion carries unanimously with all members being present. Thank you. That will move us on to item 5B, which is an update on the Mission and Greater Resource Conservation District's sub-meetings. And I'll kind of maybe tee this up and kind of give a succinct review of what we've worked on over the past couple of months, and I'll try to kind of keep it as brief as possible. But you'll recall we all met here December 9th of last year. And one of the larger takeaways from that meeting was an immediate issue related to the commercial and residential water audits. And at the time, Mission RCD was awarded a contract to perform those services. However, before that contract between them and the CWA was fully executed, there were some concerns raised by Greater RCD as to the legality to perform those services outside their district boundaries. We also had some comments from the general public, i.e. Valley Center Water District, highlighting the importance to deliver those services as quickly as possible and as effectively as possible, and for us to resolve our differences here expeditiously. In response to those services wanting to be delivered immediately, the County Water Authority pivoted and eventually was able to have Metropolitan perform those services through an existing program. Fast forward a month or so, I convened a working group between Mission and Greater RCDs to put everybody's head in a room and try to find an immediate solution to have these services back under an umbrella closer to home. Our working group met 2 times, and we essentially came up with 3 potential options that could address these matters. And just to highlight those 3 options, one of them was for Mission to perform those services via the original contract, which was pending, and subcontract any additional services as seen fit. The second option was to develop an MOU that would spell out the terms and conditions related to delivery of said services, with the main caveat that would include real enforcement mechanisms. And thirdly, perform the services via multiple contracts respective to each district's boundaries. Those options were then floated to the Water Authority by both Alex and I. And it was at this point, the Water Authority made note to us that they had moved on and were no longer entertaining to solutions to the residential and commercial components to those water audits. They essentially told us that the bus had left the station, and it was requested by them that any future agreement between all 3 RCDs here, that it be developed and focused to the agricultural water audits that are due to be released at the end of this month through a new RFP and ultimately awarded again sometime this summer. Lastly, there's some recent correspondence from Valley Center Water that requests that the current agricultural water evaluations being performed or due to be performed this summer and spring under the existing contract between Valley Center and Mission, that remain intact and not to disrupt the performance of these services for multiple reasons.
Excuse me, just a quick
Yep.
correction. There wasn't an agreement between Valley Center and Mission. So the agreement that they're referring to is the San Diego County Water
Okay.
Authority Commission.
Correction, so an agreement between Mission and County
San Diego
Water
County.
Authority. Okay. Thanks for that clarification. All of this brings us here today. And the way that I see it, we have 3 things on the table for further discussion. Number 1, we must find agreement to the ag water evaluations being done this year under contract between Mission and the County Water Authority. LAFCO has sent out some communication with their recommendation, and we can get more into that. The second item on the table is we need to come up to an immediate resolution between the 3 RCDs for the upcoming RFP related to the future cycle of ag water audits being performed in this region. And then the third is our continued long-term outlook to seek resolution both holistically and comprehensively on how the 3 RCDs deliver all their services and programs effectively and efficiently in this region. And this item is generally the whole reason why this ad hoc was put together to develop a working agenda last fall, and so that we can all move forward in the future harmoniously. So that's my quick update, although it seemed rather lengthy in voice. But do any of the RCDs have any comments to my update at this time, or any clarifications that they would like to put on the record before we dive into the next agenda, which will be the meat and potatoes of those discussions?
The only thing, the letter you referenced with the Darcy clarified the agreement. The letter I have before me says an agreement between the Valley Center Municipal Water District and Mission, and it doesn't reference the county. So it sounds like this is a carve out of what was done by the county by the way I read this. So I disagree with your interpretation. This letter reflects and that there's an arrangement between, or there's an arrangement being developed between Mission and Valley Center to address the water audits in their area. That was part of the original grant.
I think that perhaps Mr. Arant, because Mr. Arant and I discussed that letter and I have some information in regards to that, I think maybe he just, there's just a confusion of what he wrote in his letter, because Mission and no RCD has a contract with any water district to perform audits. But what he's requesting, because Valley Center uniquely is kind of the there's a triangle going on where Valley Center uniquely has customers in Mission, in Greater, and in Upper San Luis Rey. And that's, I have this map here that shows all of his customers and the different, where they fall in the different boundaries, RCD boundaries. There is an existing that goes through June 30th, 2023 agreement between Mission and the Water Authority to perform these audits. And I think what Gary was basically getting at, and what I believe that a lot of other water districts feel, is that we kind of need to, what is happening is that the people aren't being served. The whole reason that the RCDs exist, they're not being, these people aren't being served, and we need to figure out a way to get past all this and serve them. And the farmers, they don't know the difference. They don't understand these boundaries. They just know they need help, and they just want help. And one of the things that why I printed this out, and I can pass it around to, I only have 5 copies, I apologize, was that my suggestion is
Amy, before you get going,
Yeah.
perhaps I can just stop you for 1 second,
absolutely,
since we're, the 5C was just more of an informational item of my update. And I just wanted clarification from the RCDs if they had any corrections or edits to my summation. At minimum, it sounds like there needs to be some sort of clarification to what this agreement is defined as, which I think we'll get into. Darcy, do you have anything more to
No,
add?
I was just gonna say, thank you for pointing that out, because this is a little bit unclear. So
Okay,
to that.
so when there is agreement, there's some lack of clarity to what the language is to those specific services and performances and contracts. And so with that, is there any members of the public online wishing to speak to 5C?
None.
Okay,
5B.
Andy?
Still on 5B?
oh, sorry, 5B, sorry, 5B.
None for 5B.
5B, sorry, thank you for the clarification. With that, I'd like to just close that item and then move on to 5C from a procedural standpoint. And now we can, I'll open the floor up to all of you, and Amy, perhaps maybe just give the mic back over to you to kind of maybe carry on a little more to that clarification. And I think I'm one of the layman's here. I don't know how all this mechanisms and mechanics work. And so perhaps maybe it would be helpful for me and others there seems to be multiple RFPs, commercial, residential, ag. There seems to be a lot of balls that are being juggled in the air. And I think it would be helpful if there was some clarification of what exactly current contracts that are out there, what are the ones that are coming down the line, what are, I agree, there needs to be some clarification to what we're all looking at, so we're all on the same page, speaking the same contracts and the same kind of timelines here. So
So I'll be happy.
yeah,
to
perhaps if
talk
you can
about it.
elaborate, Darcy.
So there's 3 things. So there's the water smart contract that MRCD has had with San Diego County Water Authority since like 2016. That's dead now. So that was what we've been talking about most recently.
Waters-
My voice doesn't care. Is it
waters-
on, or do I have to turn it
You can
down?
turn it on. There's a button.
Thank you.
Okay.
There you go. So you said the first one,
Wait,
was
just, can you hear me now? Okay.
Water Smart Program?
The Water Smart Program, correct. So Mission has been doing that for the San Diego County Water Authority since about 2016. That is now dead, so that's off the table. So the second thing that MRCD has been doing for 30 years or so for the San Diego County Water Authority is the Agricultural Water Management Program. So, and that is typically a 5-year POP with usually 3 years and then a 2-year extension, if they're happy and we're happy. And so we're in the middle of that POP right now, the period of performance. And that will be up in the end of this fiscal year after the 3 years with the potential for a 2-year extension. This current situation probably negates that extension. And so that's what's on the table here to be discussed presumably. And then the third thing that I think Gary was more referring to here is we have an NRCS RCPP program, the Regional Conservation Partnership Program. And that started in 2021 through a series of events, both on the NRCS side and the MRCD side. That's just recently been completed. And that is not with all of the member agencies of the San Diego County Water Authority. It's with the San Diego County Water Authority. And then 6 agencies, Fallbrook, Rainbow, Vallecito, Valley Center, Waima, and Oceanside. And so that was designed to get around this issue because originally we had an RCPP that worked for the county, NRCS and Greater San Diego decided they didn't want to do it. Some of the other member agencies, I'm sorry, no, because Greater San Diego, I guess is already having issues with that at that time. This was before my time when this part started. But a number of the member agencies stepped away. We reduced it to those 6. And then that's where we stand now. That has not officially started, well, it's signed, it's ready to go. But that I think is what Gary is specifically referring to. And that the RCPP builds off of the San Diego County Water Authority and Water Management Program. So we don't have to have that. That's a question. I don't know if we have to have that for the RCPP because, and I'll just give one thing, this is a very complex thing and there's almost no money in it, by the way. What that allows is the evaluator for the County Water Authority Ag Management Program to have that first phase aspect with the grower so that NRCS programs can be discussed, suggested, and it provides a site assessment. Then that moves forward, takes that and bounces off into the RCPD program, if that makes sense. It gets complicated.
I'm learning.
Well,
That was,
let me try to simplify. it. RCPP it provides a water audit that can be used to justify, excuse me, the county's water audit program allows for a justification for a grower to access RCPP funds.
Not a justification.
What it provides about, I just spoke to Sacramento today at NRCS, and they explained that in order to access RCCP funds, they need a water preliminary audit, a
Correct.
and that this qualifies as that.
Pre-qualified.
Not, doesn't pre-qualify, it qualifies or is eligible, makes them eligible because you create the need for further work to be done and provide services. This is what they told me.
so is
And
RCPP a state
It's a federal
program?
program.
Federal program.
The Natural Resource Conservation.
And you're saying that federal program needs some sort of umbrella
No, but-
regionally to be under?
And there's a regional umbrella and there's a boundary assigned. And the boundary that I was given today is different than what you're explaining. It encompasses 10 agencies that count.
No, not-
I understand. I'm just explaining what I received today. If it's an error, then we can address that with.
And having that water audit also makes farmers who use that program eligible for other NRCS funds, like for equipment and things like that.
It doesn't actually make them eligible, but it's the first step in the process. So we act like a force amplifier for NRCS so that they don't have to be sending staff out to do that. Then there's a whole ranking mechanism. And so there are steps that the original evaluation can do to start that process. Does that clarify a little bit?
Oh, yeah,
It's
yeah,
pretty
but we don't need the water audits to qualify them for RCPP funds. Because if it's not there, that falls back to NRCS to do. So I just want to be clear on that. Everybody keeps saying that we're denying our constituents. And by the way, they're all our constituents, the money, we're not. They have to get that audit done, that preliminary audit, the first audit done by either the program we're talking about or NRCS would come down and conduct that audit to create
NRCS doesn't have the staff to do that.
Well-
That's why they have this program.
Well, this program, so I disagree with you. This program is a county program. In talking to, again, our state federal officials, that if they're going to access this funds, they're just taking advantage of the fact that this is in place. In order to do this, then they would have to send somebody out to do the water audit. We're simply doing this is supplanting federal dollars that are supposed to be spent doing this. That's how it was explained to me.
that's not how I don't understand it that way, no.
Yeah, me neither, but I'm not gonna argue. with you.
Yeah, I understand it that the water audit is part of, an integral part of the piece in order, and in
Yes.
order for them to be even put into the mix to become eligible. I mean, yeah.
And I'm in agreement. I'm just saying that this program of doing the water audits isn't the only way that can be accomplished, is what I've been told by NRCS.
Did you speak to someone at NRCS if I can?
Yes,
You did.
yes. I spoke to the state, the NRCS state program manager for the RCCP. So
Well,
I just moving forward.
well, I don't live in your world, so you guys are speaking French to me right now. And perhaps I'm sensing some sort of lack of clarity of what the definition of this program is and how it's operated and how it's serviced and how it's performed, and sounds like we need to put together some sort of effort to kind of get that definition defined so that all three RCDs are in agreement to what we're looking at here.
Yeah, I can provide that tomorrow. Go ahead.
Okay, so I'm just curious, so there's these programs out there, if I'm a grower, there's a whole bunch of programs out there. And in order to qualify, in order to apply for money from those programs, they need some sort of audit done. The RCPP is one such audit, but there's other mechanisms.
The RCCP is not the audit. It is the vehicle to get the federal dollars to the grower. Part of that program is what the feds are doing is they're taking advantage of the county's water audit and saying, guess what?
Okay.
Because you're doing that, we'll accept that. We won't send our staff down to do it. Just do it for us. And that's why I say, we're basically supplanting federal dollars for that. I get it. We benefit because we're getting the water audits done quicker and getting our growers into the program quicker because of that relationship.
Okay, that it sounds
Makes sense.
more. Yeah.
Okay, thank
The way you explained it before was not circling back with me, but yes, that is exactly the way you explained it. Makes more sense.
Yes.
So can I ask one other question?
Sure.
So using that mechanism for growers, how does the RCD actually get paid and who writes them the check?
That's the big question with this. And so I haven't gone through this yet, but my understanding is under our existing contract with the county water authority, we're paid for that audit, which is that first step. Then there's some funds in our contract that help pay for the technical assistance that MRCD provides, but it's limited. There's no administrative cost, by the way, that I can charge on this. And then a lot of it is just really working out which of the steps that MRCD will do to help NRCS and the steps that they continue with. There's I think a series of, I want to say 9 different steps. And so we're just basically acting like a force accelerator. That's the way I see it for NRCS.
And then do you have that like in a flow chart form that's shareable? Because I think that would be really helpful to everybody is to have that written down, because there's a lot of acronyms that fly around.
I think more information would be helpful for everybody to kind of get an umbrella overview of what this program is, what it looks like, how it functions, what are the mechanics of it, chart flow.
I love.
I just want to,
Yeah.
I just all want us to be speaking the same language, because this is one of the issues that we're going to have to resolve here as these services are going to be performed this spring and summer. And with your concern about the long-term outlook of how these, programs are delivered, not just now, but into the future, that's going to play into our development of this MOU, which is obviously the nuts and bolts to something bigger and greater. But again, I want us all on the same page, that we're speaking the same program and the same mechanics of the program, so that when we do have our subsequent conversation, we're all on the same page. Does that make sense? Sure.
I'm just curious to understand the county water authorities program, the ag water management program a little bit more. Besides going out and doing that audit, does that program offer anything else? Like, is there a rebate or something that?
Yeah, so there's currently 3 components to that program. There's the ag water just ag water management, which is just the irrigation evaluation. There's AIEP, which is the Agricultural Irrigation Efficiency Program. And that is where there's an evaluation done and then recommendations provided for rebates. The rebates are provided by the San Diego County Water Authority to help make those changes more affordable to growers. And then finally, there's a soil moisture sensor program, and the funds are pretty much done on that one. So, that was again a rebate program, where there's an evaluation done, an assessment made, and then recommendations on a soil moisture sensor, and then a rebate to help deflect the cost of those. But that pot of money is either completely done or just about.
And what are the terms to this RCPP?
That's a second program though. So remember, we're talking two separate programs right now. The first one is the Ag Water Management Program, which we've held for a long time, which is essentially coming up again this July.
Yep.
RCPP is a sort of scaled down version of that.
I guess I was related to the RCPP. What are the terms associated with that? Because Valley Center is on record saying, hey, we want you guys Mission to perform those this spring and summer. They're gonna have concerns long-term. I'm trying to figure out what are those current terms of that RCPP? Is it open-ended?
No,
Does
that's
that-
the one, that's the San Diego County Water Authority with 6 member agencies. And
Does that expire at any point? Is it
oh, it's just
open-ended?
started. Oh, yeah, no, it goes to 20, it's a 5-year program, but it's starting late, so 4 years from now, I guess.
Frank?
So the first program is the one that you're getting the money from the water authority that we're talking about, right?
With a
The
contract.
contract. I'm just trying to make,
Yeah, it's
there's
okay,
a lot of stuff flying around
Yeah.
here.
it's okay.
The second one that you're talking about is the stuff with NRCS.
Correct.
So can we just, do we have to talk about them both at the same time, or can we focus on one? Or are they married together and we have to? I'm just trying to,
I'm trying to sort it out.
I'm a
with you,
farmer,
Frank.
so I get a little confused when there gets too much stuff out there.
They're essentially 2 separate contracts,
Right,
but they are intertwined.
okay,
So
all right, that's fine.
And I think intertwined is an overstatement, because there's a lot of other places where they're not intertwined with a county level water audit program. So I think that's an overstatement. I think there are two, well, we can, I'm just saying, in talking to NRCS, there are other parts of the state where they do not do the water audit. It's not done by the local RCD using county funds. It may be done by the local RCD, but it's through another program, or basically through the general funds money of that RCD. So again, I don't think they're intertwined. I think they complement each other, but they're not intertwined.
that is a much better word, and just for clarity, I'll try and explain a little more, and I think you're right. First of all, the first program, the Ag Water Management Program, is a standalone contract. The RCPP is a standalone contract. How that worked was San Diego County Water Authority put up a certain amount of money to go into that, and it's in-kind services. Those in-kind services are basically the irrigation evaluations. The 6 member agencies also put up funds for that. It's a match, I find it a very odd vehicle, if you want to know the truth, but the participating water districts have also put up in-kind funds, and those are basically just to provide the reports. So when you do an evaluation, part of the reporting mechanism is to look at the last 3 years of water usage. And then they're going to use that as a baseline to see how the changes are affected over time. So that's what the funding comes from the member agencies. Plus, they also advertise the program in their flyers and their billing and whatever. So they're not putting up any actual money, they're putting up in-kind funds.
And that's the one with the water authority, correct?
That's for RCPP.
Frank, let me take a crack at this again, because I'm with Frank, and I think maybe I glossed it over in my summation, but I'm trying to separate them. Just for simplicity. The number one I had is us trying to find an agreement to these water evaluations that are being done under current contract between Valley Center and Mission, whether it's through CWA or what. Get out of that complexity for me. Just think of the Valley Center letter and the request to perform those services this spring and summer.
Okay.
Okay. That's a solution that we need to resolve today.
So And I think you're correct. It needs to resolve today because that contract ends on June 30th, correct?
This one, I believe, what Gary's talking to is primarily RCPT.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That's what I'm
He
hearing.
wasn't clear in here, but I think that's.
Okay.
That's what I'm trying to sort out here. So here's how I understand it, and I'm not the expert. Gary's letter references the RCPP. Those services are gonna be needed in his area this spring and summer.
Mhm.
He'd like those services to be effectively and expeditiously as possible through Mission. I think you also just mentioned that RCP program is ongoing for another 5 years. Without speaking for Greater, I'm sensing that they're gonna have concerns that beyond this spring and summer, that they're gonna wanna have a conversation through these efforts to make sure that there's agreement that the future audits beyond this spring and summer are collectively agreed upon between all three RCDs. Is that fair? Okay. That's the first option or first issue. The second issue is the agricultural water evaluation program that's coming up for release this month and then going to be awarded in June.
Correct.
And that's the ag component.
That's the countywide.
Countywide Water Authority is going to release an RFP next month. It's going to solicit all of you guys, and we're here to kind of, based on our previous conversations, is hopefully develop an MOU that would spell out how all three of you are going to apply for that upcoming RFP. So that's the second issue. And then the third one is a long-term MOU that comprehensively and holistically looks at all your programs and services, and we can all set some terms and conditions, how we move forward in all these programs, so that we don't sit here every month and try to figure this out, that we all have a long-term agreement.
May I make one suggestion to that?
Frank, does that help?
Actually, it does.
So
Sorry.
I would like to just suggest is we just move to that long-term agreement, because then that solves those first two problems, whatever that agreement is. So
The floor is
first
open.
two Are just kind of creating confusion a little bit, if you will.
So I don't really care whether we go for I think the first one, we can't do anything with that, right? It's kind of, so whether we do the long term with the second one, I'm gonna speak from the Water Authority's point of view. The Water Authority is going to issue one RFP,
Correct.
That's those-
one RFP. Now, within that RFP, when you guys submit stuff back, you can have carve outs. You know, this is for this one, this is for this one, this is for this one, but we're not gonna do, Water Authority will not do 3 separate RFPs.
Okay.
So it has to be all encompassed in the same one. Everybody needs to be happy. Because if it's not, then the Water Authority will find somebody else again, just like they did, and we'll move forward, because we don't have time, as you see with Gary needing stuff done, we don't have time to waste. We gotta get stuff done.
May I speak to that for a second?
Please.
Just so you know, so the water, from my experience with the San Diego County Water Authority, they'll put out an RFP and it's a pretty quick turnaround. So I did not do this original contract, but with the Water Smart, it was 3 weeks. And so it definitely behooves us to get some kind of agreement figured out, or that work will be lost on us, to all of us. So.
Yeah, the Water Authority is government, but it doesn't move as slow as some government, so.
Alex, are you there?
Yep, yeah.
Perhaps you can confirm what Frank just said, because you and I have talked with the Water Authority too on what this new RFP in the coming months is gonna look like, and what the legal options from their perspective was preferred moving forward.
Yeah, so it's pretty much what was said. They're okay with one contract that has subcontracts. They're okay with having one contract with 2 applicants. What they're not okay with is having multiple contracts. So no multiple RFPs for multiple contracts.
What does one contract with 2 applicants look like?
An MOU.
Yeah, that's an interesting question. And I think what's going to happen is if there's some kind of MOU in place, they're okay with accepting a joint application essentially, or a joint proposal.
Well, and I think an MOU resolves the longer term issue and sets the stage to have three partners working collectively. And I think that's, from my perspective, I think an MOU addresses all sorts of other issues, because we can have a generic MOU. I use the term generic, but we can have the main structure of the MOU. And then as these various opportunities come up, we have an opportunity at that point to develop a scope of work as an attachment. So we're not constantly approving an MOU. We are approving a scope of work, which can go back to our boards or whoever has the authorization in each of the RCDs to make that determination. I think that's a long-term solution that addresses all sorts of work that we do collectively and individually, and allows for us as a region to deal more as a regional organization. And, you know, it addresses the RCPP issue. It addresses the Regional Forest Protection Plan because it covers multiple RCDs, and it also puts us in a position where we're not having to go back to LAFCO with every single agreement to get approval. And so the administrative breakdown, the carve outs, how, whatever terminology you want to use can be addressed in those scope of work worked out by the executive directors when they're looking at applying. So to
Yeah,
me,
that's exactly what LAFCO staff was discussing among themselves, having a template document and then also a scope of work attachment. Sorry to cut you off. I can't tell really when people start talking or stop talking.
You're good. The other thing I think that does, it puts us in compliance with Government Code 56133, which this current, the first water audit program we talked about, this one we talked about, and even this, the RCPP puts some of us in violation and creates an issue. So I'm suggesting we go with the MOU. And as far as this immediate the RCPP to deal with this area, I have a map here that reflects, is this the same, the San Diego County Agricultural Resilience? Is this the name of your RC? Because this is what was handed to us. This was what was handed to me earlier today, and it shows 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 water districts in this.
No, then that's not correct.
Okay, but that's what NRCS has. So whatever it is that's out there to move forward with this, because everybody keeps talking about their constituents. These are all our constituents, and let's put this one to bed. If we understand that we're just going to address this next 6 months to get these water audits done under this, I'm comfortable with that. But with the understanding that that's this short-term solution until we work out the rest of the terms in our MOU and the scope of work. That this does not set the stage for anything going forward. It simply allows for the work to get done for our growers. Because as Gary's mentioned in his survey, actually a preponderance of the work lies, if I recall right, in Graders area. And you know, I could argue that we could provide the work. I'm not going to go down that road. I'll acquiesce to that to keep this ball moving forward. If Mission's in position to do it, let's Mission. But that does not, I want to go on the record.
Yeah.
That does not reflect that we're not capable of, or that we feel we should. Because going back to your point, Amy, and you bring up a really good point. The farmers don't know, but how are they ever going to know who the right district is if another district's always working in their area in violation of 56133? And I'll never be able to get a toehold in there because I'm constantly fighting that process. I think we're better off by partnering together and focusing in our own backyards and working collectively.
I agree with you. And, you know, as it is, the Upper San Luis Rey currently has an MOU with Greater
yeah.
to perform those. But as I told Gary, if someone called my water district, because I'm a general manager for UWEMA, if someone called UWEMA and wanted service and they were in Gary's district, I would say, I'm sorry, you need to call Gary. So a little bit of the responsibility is upon the person receiving the phone call to direct them in the right manner. But our RCD, the Upper San Luis Rey RCD, is a much smaller entity than Mission or Greater. And we don't perform the services. That's why we have MOUs with both Greater. And that's what I was going to suggest was we just need an MOU to get us through this thing. And I'm willing to take to my RCD board, let's do an MOU with Mission to just get us through this period until we can work out a final solution.
With the understanding.
With the
that
end-
With the
that final
caveat that it's-
solution is an
It's not
MOU.
precedent to a long-term solution.
Yes,
Right,
and,
right.
and we're leaning towards it's an MOU.
Right.
Because if it works for this, getting this accomplished, then we can level the playing field or whatever you want to call that, at least level the playing field, Robert, allow for the work to be apportioned based off the district. And if any of us say, hey, we don't want to deal with that, we'll leave it up to the other two. And if there's only one district that wants to do it, then great. Then we have an understanding moving forward.
Well, and I hope the larger MOU would create some sort of, you guys setting these terms and conditions, it would improve the efficiency
That's
and
what I'm-
effectiveness of how you deliver these services so that they're not redundant, they're not repetitive, they're not,
If we write the MOU
Yeah.
properly, maybe it's a
Yeah.
simple thing of.
so,
And let me continue, because I do think there's something Greater approach Mission many years ago was, why don't we look at sharing staff? Why don't we look at doing some operational mergers that work? And I think this is the beginning to that. There's an opportunity here to somehow share staff and still get the work accomplished, because do I need to train another person? We do a bunch of firework. Maybe why develop that unless you're bored and you feel you need that? Maybe we can provide that in the meantime, until you get to a point where you're ready to rock and roll and move in that direction.
so I'm seeing a lot of head nodding that an MOU is the vehicle to get us to where we need to go. And it seems to be, if we put our heads to work immediately and try to beat this timeline, I guess that we would say with this ag RFP, I know it's here,
It's here.
I'm trying to resolve that issue too,
Yeah, I
through
mean,
an
The
MOU, but
timeline is
it
here.
sounds like, let's all get to work on this MOU. I'm gonna give credit to Ann and Don to come in here today and say, hey, we're gonna acquiesce to a lot of the immediate and short-term things that are going on. And yes, let's all get those services performed to the community. But again, with the big caveat that it's not precedent setting to that these performed long-term in that fashion, that let's sit down and get to an MOU to discuss how we do that into the future.
Yeah, and I'd like to say thank you for considering that, because I think that that's very gracious of you at this point. And plus, that's how we worked before all of this, before I was on board, before Ann was a director, and I think Amy too. So I think an MOU makes a lot of sense. And then how we hammer out those details, I think is great. I like the idea of sharing staff, because some of these programs, for example, Water Smart, it would have been nice if we could have shared staff on that. And then we have redundancy. That's one of the things we learned from COVID, is that redundancy was really a good thing to have here. And we're a small RCD. I'm not so sure about operational merger, what that means, but that can be discussed. So,
Well, I think the simple approach is we need to start talking about an MOU.
So what is that next step?
To me, there are a variety of MOUs that are already out there. I say, we have legal counsel. I have no problem tasking our legal counsel to put together a rough draft. What one of you want or maybe we put all the legal counsels together and let them come up with one. I mean, we could sit here and debate all this we want, but we're gonna run it past legal counsel.
There's already an existing
I was
MOU
just gonna
for
say.
water irrigation audits, for agriculture irrigation audits, they already exist. That Greater has them with Stanley Ray.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
So it sounds like we have some
Okay.
templates out there.
yeah.
If we're all in agreement, maybe sounds like Grader's willing to step up and take the lead on using one of those templates and kind of ghostwriting some sort of new MOU
Mhm.
with terms and conditions that would eventually come back to all of us for review and input and feedback and change and edits and omissions. But I think for the purpose of today's meeting is we're all in agreement to task them to do that. And then, that can be the starting draft of putting together something more concrete.
I'd like to suggest that because we're working with such a short time frame, and it's gonna be a heavy lift, I understand that, but that we look at the calendar, like my RCD meets the second Thursday of April. So I'd like to suggest that we kind of look at when our meetings fall so that we shoot for having a document that we can bring to our boards if in a fairly quick manner.
And I appreciate that, Tamara, but I'm of the opinion we should call for a special meeting as soon as this group has something we're comfortable with. Call for a special meeting. This is important to our constituents. I'm not gonna, I tell you, I'm gonna ask for a special meeting on my board as soon as we get a document together, because I want to get this resolved. I want to move forward. I'm the board president. I sort of have that, authority. I know as a general manager, you may not, but I'm just advocating that. Let's not wait to the next regular meeting. As soon as we can, let's call a special meeting. As soon as we get a document done, let's try to. Now, if it's within a week, I think we can live with it, but you're right. I don't want us to wait beyond, if we have something ready, let's try
I
to
think
do
the
sooner.
second Thursday in April is only 3 weeks away, so,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
Ours is the day before yours.
Yeah, so.
When is your board meeting?
Ours is the third Wednesday, but I'm fine with expediting this, and if it's hard to do a special meeting, I think that's a perfect way
Yeah, I
to
can do a
use us.
special meeting.
It goes pretty fast. And then, and Don, if you'd be willing to take on that first draft, I think that might make sense, because I think you have, your organization may have more constraints that you want on there, so let's start there. And then work, as opposed to, if Amy or I were maybe just start, or use the old MOU that we have, then we have to be adding things. Sometimes it's easier to have everything out there and then, discuss them or address them.
Let me put this into, because you guys keep talking special meetings for your own collective boards. I want this group to circle up again too, and have the ability to provide input.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
And so perhaps maybe that is the better first step, because we also have other at-large members that are part of this ad hoc committee that once you finalize this draft,
Well, and
we circle up here, and that way kind of gives you an advisory component to go to your boards.
And I wasn't cutting this process
Okay.
out. I was simply saying, once we get a draft and this group reviews it, then it's taking it to, I'm gonna take it to our board, because I'm gonna keep my board informed along the way. And, I'm hoping that by the time I get there, they're gonna support that, hey, that the 3 districts are represented and the members at large, public representation from the other water districts are there. We all feel this is the document that's gonna work. This doesn't get into the scope of work, simply gives us the framework to operate together and how we do things.
So it might be more time efficient to have, when Grader has that initial template for review, that he includes LAFCO council in
Oh,
the
yeah,
for sure.
description of it, and that's.
For sure.
So can we put a timeline on this?
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to figure out is, this is part of the next item too, is like, I'd like to start locking in some more dates. I'm tired of these doodle polls that go months and months with responses and so forth. And so I'm with Frank. Can we all maybe just pull out our calendars and maybe create some sort of at least tentative timeline, if not more concrete, on what we're looking at? I have no idea how long it would take you guys to draft this MOU, but
So your regular meeting is the 12th. So what if we say by the 3rd, there's April 3rd, something goes out to everybody, including LAFCO council, and then that'll give us at least a week, or that week of the 3rd to the 7th to look at it, send it to our councils to review or whatever. Does that sound reasonable?
I would, yeah.
I mean,
Do you think you can move it back even more, like to sometime next week? Because I mean, as much as April 12th sounds like a long ways away, it sounds like tomorrow.
I don't have to do
Well,
anything, so
I
it's
know you
really
don't.
up to you.
I'll ask our attorney to have something back to us by the 30th of this month for the whole group to see. Okay, I mean,
That's all.
that's what, 8 days, eight
Yeah.
actual calendar days. So let's
Yeah,
basically
aggressive.
turn it back in business week. So I will ask that he produce, or his staff produce, a draft MOU for us to look at. And then at that point, how do we want to move forward?
so draft MOU by Grader by March 30th.
So we would need to meet the week of the 3rd here, correct?
Now, do you want to come here before you go to your boards?
No, I think we come here. I think this group needs to vet that.
Okay,
And then, because if LAFCO isn't bought off on it, why are we taking it to our?
so
board?
we need to meet one of the first 2 weeks in April then.
For the first week of April,
First
really,
week.
Yeah.
give us time for our board
That's what I was
packets.
thinking, is if we needed to meet the first week of April, that 30, that helps.
Yeah. Our board packet will like have to be published by the 7th.
Mine has to be published by the 10th.
Okay, so
We-
I'm open 4th, 5th, or 6th. I don't know what everybody's saying.
6 weeks out from-
The 6th is a Farm Bureau board meeting here.
What about the 4th?
Well, heck, we'll already be here.
Yeah.
Maybe we meet before though, because after we have the political meeting.
No, 'cause we
A
have-
day full.
Oh, you have your-
Adam did the San Diego County Water.
I'm in the wrong one. I'm like, wait, I'm flying to London that day. Wrong month, sorry.
They told me the end of March.
Oh, yeah, that'll come out in March? Oh,
When we met with them this month, they said the end of this month, but
Let's,
I don't,
let's circle around if we could to verify the water authority's deadlines, so we're not.
Don't worry about the water board though. We'll,
yeah, let's,
No,
we've got, Amy and I have an end.
does
Okay.
April 4th,
Yeah.
April 4th in the morning works for me, but
April 4th in the morning.
That's fine, it
it
works
would
for me
have to be
too.
like
8,
8 to 9, somewhere in that time. to be-
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay,
does that work?
yes,
wait,
It doesn't for me, but that's.
so 9 AM or 8 AM, 8 to 9.
Darcy was
8
asking
AM
for
to 9
8:30.
AM.
Somewhere there.
But
Works for me.
I'll do 9, but 8:30 I can do. 8 I can do, but it's harder.
Okay.
I got stuff to do in the morning.
I just have to be on the road by 11:30 because I have a meeting downtown.
Meeting downtown at 9.
Oh, yeah, is there something here? Yeah.
Well, April 5th, I mean, like, let's just
April.
jump to another day real quick.
April 5th,
April 5th in the morning.
I'm open all day.
the morning I can't do. Sorry, folks. This one.
All right.
We could do April, couldn't we do April 6th after 1 o'clock? You have a political meeting?
Yeah.
Like at 1 o'clock or 1:30 or something.
April
that's it.
6th.
Or at 2:30 like we've been meeting.
At 2.
Probably, I probably need to do it at,
April 6th, I can do it.
or if we can, one.
Okay.
Have a,
April 6th,
yeah,
April
April 6th, 1.
That's fine.
1,
Works for me. I can do one, April 6th.
Okay,
come on, Amy, make it happen. Andy,
Oh, yeah, I'm here anyway.
Christina,
at 1,
I'll make it work.
I'm gonna take Darcy to lunch.
okay, April 6th, 1 PM, here at the Farm Bureau.
Okay.
April 6th.
Before we
Thank you,
close,
Mary.
can we just make sure we understand the terms of this MOU so we can make sure they're reflected accurately in the MOU? So this is,
Well, I think what we talked about, what I heard say was we're gonna use the current,
yeah, but do we need to put any like timeframes within it?
well, I think that, I think leave that up just
Yeah,
to our attorney to do the first draft of, and then the other attorneys, when they get a chance, that's the other thing, if you guys want to give me your attorney's contact information, I'll make sure to sort of streamline it, let the attorneys talk to them while they're drafting this, and hopefully there's a lot of stuff that can be addressed right then and there, so before we even get here as a group, that the attorneys at least have an opportunity to point out their concerns or issues, or hopefully we get them resolved before we get here. Because a lot of the stuff is just a matter of,
I mean, a lot of it's pretty standard.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
It's just, you know, and I think you could deal with things like timing on each of the scopes of work. Because you wouldn't want people to drop out of the MOU during the contract you would all apply to.
well, that's exactly what I was thinking. The time frame. This would be
Really
an evergreen
Evergreen
MOU.
agreement, but the scopes of work would talk about the particulars.
Do we
Yes.
want to go forward in this first?
No, at this point, I recommend we have an MOU. The scope of work will be based off of when we pursue grant opportunities and one in our area and something overlaps in another area. That's when we have the dialogue and we work out that scope of work. And then that becomes actually the same document, that's a scope of work becomes the document we use in the grant to explain how we're going to get the work done. So because you have to write an RFP request, you have to submit a request. So the fact that we reference the MOU and the 3 districts are working collaboratively, and we don't have to get into the MOU context of the scope of work, how we're going to get it accomplished. So it might be, yeah, Upper San Luis Rey supports, both districts working in their area, Mission works in their area, we work in ours, or we support utilizing, one person from Mission to accomplish all the work in the area, whatever that scope of work is. So that's why I envision it not being embedded. At the same time, I suggest that the district managers look at this RFP that's coming up and start developing that scope of work at the same time. So that way we're doing two things at once. We're not waiting for the MOU to be done and then be on a timeline. Let's write the scope of work as if the MOU is in place.
But we won't know what the MOU says until we issue the MOU.
Correct.
Yeah.
But
so-
the scope of work is still the scope of work.
Right, but we won't know the scope of work until we issue the MOU.
Right.
It should be the
RFP.
RFP, okay, yes.
Yeah, so that becomes the problem, is like, if there's a lot of process involved in preparing and agreeing to submit on this or that.
I was under the impression the RFP has been released or will be released.
haven't-
I was,
know.
Okay,
I was told by the end of this month.
well, as soon as it gets released, I think we start working on that too, so we're not losing traction.
No, I agree. I just think we need to have a pretty nimble MOU between. these
Oh, yeah,
for
groups,
sure.
Because these RFPs are gonna come out and they're gonna go quick once they're out.
And that's why I think the emphasis is to put the scope of work for each of these projects we work on these.
Sure,
grants
that
on.
makes sense.
Mhm.
Yeah. But just, one comment on what you're saying about having sort of a statement of work addressed before the specific RFP comes out. That would be a little bit more difficult in that, so.
And I wasn't referencing that. I was simply referencing,
okay.
as soon as an RFP comes out, if any one of us are, I'm hoping that communication develops and we know when they're coming out and we're sharing that and we're ahead of the schedule. Ahead of the plan, so to speak, because we all know that certain one of these come out every 5 years, 3 years, whatever that rotation is. So we'll know when the next one comes up.
Mhm, mhm.
Okay. Any other comments to 5C?
Hey, Adam, I have a question for you.
Head out.
One of Don's primary concerns, the last time we had this conversation, is the enforcement mechanism in the MOU. Now, I leave it to you, moderator. I don't know if you want to have the group reach some kind of consensus on enforcement before you let everyone go, so you could provide that direction to your legal counsel. If you want, I can go over what those options were that we discussed last time.
For purposes of the record, why don't you just discuss what we have on our end in terms of legal mechanisms as options?
Sure. So the first issue that we talked about was how to determine a violation. Instead of leaving it up to the parties, one of the things we can do is have some kind of third party, either maybe the LAFCO executive officer or some party designated, or some third party designated by the parties to the MOU, make that determination as to whether or not there's been a violation of the MOU. So that's one aspect of it. The second is determining what the consequences are. I think Don or somebody on the call last time, or during the discussions last time, said, let's start with a notice of violation and escalate from there. So first step would be notice of violation. Second step could include, if we can determine what the actual damages would be, we could have a liquidated damages provision. If we can't determine what liquidated damages are, perhaps we can collectively agree to some kind of penalty provision that's going to be like a penalty assessed by LAFCO perhaps. And obviously the third option is litigation on what that would look like and whether you want to submit to an arbitrator to resolve this conflict, or you want to go straight to court or go to mediation. So anyway, it'd be kind of helpful to get some direction. I think I'm not drafting it, but for your legal counsel to get some kind of direction from the group ahead of time.
I appreciate you laying that out for us, Alex, the way I envisioned it. And of course, I'm open to going any course as you guys see necessary to fit, but I was operating that, for a lack of a better term, we're giving Greater the liberty to draft this MOU. They can incorporate enforcement mechanisms in there as they see fit. We're all gonna have a chance to review LAFCO is gonna have a chance to review. If they omit anything that's kind of an example of our end as a potential solution, then LAFCO staff and legal counsel can provide those comments as necessary as potential options for future consideration to be put into the MOU. But the way I see it is, let's give Don and his team the chance to draft this. And with now the, you know, on the administrative record that from LAFCO's perspective, we do see some legal options there, but we'll give him the liberty to do so and then provide comment as necessary. So I don't know if there's any objection to that. I don't think we need to spell out exactly what those things are today. I think we just put them on the record and let Don and his team draft accordingly.
I have a quick comment, and I'm fine with that, and we discussed this at the last meeting, so I think we're all kind of on the same page what that will look like. The only thing I would like to add, and this is just because this was an issue last time, was how to end the agreement. Because that's, I think, where much of the confusion and issues derived from, was how the Greater San Diego canceled the MOU with Mission. There was misunderstanding there, and so just add some kind of language in there that's clear to everybody.
But this is a short-term MOU, correct?
Well, I'm envisioning, this is the long-term
Yeah.
MOU. The short-term work will be, if we develop this as a long-term MOU, which is what we
It
should be
resolves the
doing.
short term.
It resolves the most short-term issue, which is this audit that's gonna become, the RFP, let's use the right acronym, the RFP, because I'm getting confused. The RFP that's coming up from the County Water Authority, we should be able to do a partnership approach to that with the MOU and a scope of work that accompanies it. That's why I was saying, as soon as the RFP is let, we need to, the three organizations need to come up with a scope of work that we're comfortable supporting and able to support, and how we're gonna accomplish that. So I envision this being a long-term solution, and because the very short term is the RCPP support to our growers. Next 6 months, I'm okay with us saying, you've got it. And then one of the things we need to address in this long term is we need to develop a scope of work for the RCPP going forward until it sunsets. Or, however,
Yeah.
whatever the agreement is. So as far as,
So you don't think we need a short-term MOU just for them to deal with the next 6 months? You think we should just let them, it doesn't matter.
we could.
One way of addressing that, on just that very limited 6-month period of time, is instead of doing this kind of a letter where only Mission signed, that there could be something similar, maybe explain it a little bit better, clarify some of this in here, and make it clear that it is for that 6-month period for the RCPP, and have all three of the RCPs be signatories. That way,
And actually call it what it is the RCPP as
Yeah,
opposed
exactly,
to,
right.
because that leads it to.
I think you could bring that to your board at the same time you bring the long-term agreement, but just, in case for whatever reason we need longer on the long-term agreement, I think it manages for the three RCDs to contract around the 56133 issue.
And it addresses that government code issue right off the bat for this RCPP.
Yeah.
And just a quick thing to clarify too, is Valley Center in question here because it's the only district included under the RCPP that crosses RCD boundaries, like
don't
Walbrook,
know.
Bonsall,
I'd have to defer.
Rainbow.
I think
It's a good question.
I think it is the only district that crosses RCD boundaries in the RCPP program. I think it is.
Well, Darcy, since you're you guys have that, I think if you want to, I would like to see you develop, for lack of better words, that letter that sort of outlines that the only area that we're talking about with this agreement deals with Valley Center, because that's how I'm interpreting this, is that the only overlay where the three districts touch one water district is Valley Center. I'm not asking you to commit right now, but do the homework and let's verify that. And that's probably one of the things that we need to share with everybody and be part of that letter. So we're going forward, we're saying, okay, this work is in this boundary. And if it includes more, I just want to know more and I want it laid out. I'm not saying if it's more than this agreement's off. I just want us to lay all our cards on the table so we're clear going forward that for the next 6 months, here's where the work's going to be done. So,
I think that was one of the requests from Mary and I, and maybe even Frank, is to kind of
Yeah.
get some more clarification
Yeah.
on that program. What it looks like, what are the mechanics of it, so that we're all have a full understanding of how that works.
Darcy, I think we just need to double check Rainbow.
Yeah,
In
because
regards to
I think there's
mission
a couple
and,
where we have a little bit of overlap.
yeah, I don't think Fallbrook, but I think Rainbow, we might have some overlap there.
I'm not so sure about Rainbow, but I think, isn't Mission entrenched into UEMA? And I think.
No.
But I'll get all this. out
Yeah,
and put it
no,
all out
Mission
there and we
doesn't-
can take a
Mission-
look.
You're right. We go into Oceanside.
Yeah,
I know we go into Oceanside. We go up to Carlsbad and into Oceanside.
we don't have problems.
Mary has a question.
Okay, so I have a couple of questions, and, you know, this is just from being the at-one person here. Is that when CWA lets out this grant for this project, or sends out the RFP,
Mhm.
is it only the RCDs that traditionally or typically respond to it? Or do you have are there other?
So this is for the county water. Authority, right?
Yeah.
Right,
That's a really good question. So I do know that Greater San Diego has never responded to the Water Smart or the Ag Water Management one, just because Jeremy told me. And there was another, I think there were only one or two responders to the Water Smart contract. And I don't know about the Ag because I haven't done that yet. So we've just held that for so long. So I don't know.
I think that's a good question for your water authority staff, because I don't think any one of us can speak to that.
no, I was
Yeah.
just curious on whether you know.
Are we
they-
gonna entangle with others? that
Or,
wanted to
yeah,
do
that
the
was,
same work?
that was exactly my question. Or do you end up bringing somebody else into the mix at some point?
Based off what Gary said, that they prefer to go to an RCD because we have a lower overhead cost. We're not a for-profit organization. That's why they rather. work
That's
with
the
us.
key, our rates are low.
Okay, and then then are the RCPP, okay, that program,
Mhm.
that do they let out various RFPs?
No, that's already been done. So can you hear me? So NRCS, they have a funding, an announcement that comes out on a yearly basis for that program. We responded in 2020, I think it was 2020 when we started that one. And then I think it's open every year or every other year. Anyone can respond to that. But it's a technical assistance contract. So it's not something
Because I thought they had two different
they
programs.
do.
Okay,
So there's an RCPP Classic and then there's an RCPP
Grants.
Innovative or.
grants.
Yeah.
Okay.
Those are all,
This is the class.
Can we task somebody to spell this out for this group? So we're all, is that, Darcy, I don't want to put more homework on you, but like,
I'll do it.
can you just
easier than
kind of
it
do a
is.
quick overview of these three programs that we're talking about? And so that
And
An
NRCS
acronym.
uses more acronyms than I do.
Yeah, and-
Legend.
Mary, a great question, like the terms of all these programs too, because the one that was dead was pending and now the ag one's coming up and this one just got issued. Is it 3 years? Is it 5 years? What are the options? It helps with the long-term envision of what we're all doing here to kind of understand where these programs all line up from a linear timeline.
and I think a product we produce that might be beneficial to us, when we first got together as a sound off group, we all shared our programs and the areas we're working in. And I think that's the scopes of work we're gonna be developing as we move forward is in each of those areas. So it'd be nice for the members at large to get that information again. And I know we submitted it, I think you did, and you guys presented something, I believe. And did you do that or did?
We just gave a list of the
was it-
different,
I'd
different,
say Andy did it perfectly.
Yeah.
yeah. It was
But you
more
provided me
about
something
the-
in writing.
That
very
was her
general.
list. Yeah,
Um,
she wasn't
I
here.
can send all that out
But
to you guys.
I think that'd be valuable moving forward, because those are the scope of works we need to, those are the work we need to incorporate into this MOU.
Well, that's what I was hoping to be incorporated into the MOU so that everybody identifies their programs and services so that.
Which I think what more that was tied to was what our LAFCO, oh Lord, in terms of, our powers, latent
Late
and
powers,
active powers. It was more tied to that, that I think you asked to provide, and that's what I provided.
Well, if it's helpful, Don, I have everybody's contribution at our last meeting in December that kind of
Mhm.
highlighted.
Yeah.
I can just send you all that material.
I'll need it for the attorney, but I think it might provide some insight for Mary, asking about all the other stuff.
Well, that is a part of our working agenda. That was number 1 or 2.
Yeah.
We've skipped to 3 because all these pressing issues,
Yes.
but yeah, we will get back on track to identify those programs and services. So. Okay, I'd like to wrap up here. Is there anything more to item 5C? Erica, can you check with the general public?
No comments.
No comments. Okay, we'll conclude 5C and move on to 5D, which is future meeting locations, dates and times. I think we kind of indirectly covered that in our last item, but just for the record, I think we're all in agreement that this body will convene again on Thursday, April 6th at 1 p.m., correct?
Do we want to pick a subsequent date? Just so we keep the ball rolling instead of. I know with my schedule, it's easier, the further out I go, the more I can guarantee I can do something.
What do you mean a subsequent date? In case this one doesn't work?
No,
The
the
next
following.
one.
Oh, following.
Meeting 2, meeting 3, meeting 4. I mean, the more we can plan it out, let's get it done.
So
How many do
you,
we
okay,
need to
when's the
have?
last board meeting? What's up?
Well, can't that one be the last one?
So hopefully,
I mean, as long as everything goes well.
Yeah.
yeah, but so we need at least
More
2,
time.
we need at least the next meeting, this meeting on the 6th, and we need one more if things go according to plan.
What about a month, what, I mean, this is
Yeah.
like the third.
May 4th?
Then we will.
I won't be here, but Andy can be here.
Well, we should probably be here.
Well,
No
I'm
offense, Andy.
gone from May 2nd
Yeah,
through
we
May
probably need you here,
17th.
so May 2nd, so,
I'm gone from May 2nd through May 17th.
well, April 27th, maybe you go a week ahead.
That's good by me.
I have a
Florida, Florida,
CWA
yeah.
board meeting that day.
Yeah.
Frank and I both
Yeah.
do,
Yeah, all day.
all day.
Wednesday?
What about the 25th or 26th?
Around April.
Yeah,
26, I'm open all day.
26th, I'm available in the afternoon.
Me too.
me too.
I think I am too.
Okay, 1 o'clock again, or,
Yeah, 1 o'clock, let's do one.
okay,
Okay,
so
So that's Thursday, the 27th, right?
Wednesday, the
April
26th.
Okay. Why did I do that one?
1 PM.
And that will give us the ability to you guys now report back from all your boards and then hopefully,
Can we push it back a little?
Mary,
Yeah.
is the
1:30
room
or
available
2?
then?
Yeah, 2 o'clock would probably be a little easier.
Frank too?
Yes.
Okay.
If you don't know, that's admin, your administrative professionals day, so
Yeah, I saw that.
you probably need to take a couple people out to lunch.
Okay, so we're meeting again here, April 6th, 1 PM to review the draft MOU. Then you guys will all take that to your board.
PM.
No.
No, yeah, you're right. Sorry, 1 PM on the
First
6th.
meeting.
April 6th, 1 PM.
Yes.
Does that definitely work with this room? It sounds like.
I
that's
think
far out.
Mary's
I'm
still
gonna check- I'll
confirming.
check you out.
Mary's still confirming.
Well, absent meeting location, we're gonna meet April 6th, 1 PM.
We have
I'll
another,
Double check. but
we
sure.
have another meeting room upstairs, I think.
Yeah.
I think we can. all
We can
check
make it
that.
work.
Yeah.
So-
That way you'll kick the work
Yeah,
committee
I have
out.
26 too.
Do you have a 26?
So April 6th, 1 PM, April 26th, 2 PM. And those are subject to confirming with Mary's staff that we can use these rooms or something in this facility, but we'll,
Nope,
not,
CCE has it that day. How many people,
you're looking at it,
Yeah.
10 people.
There's something down at, on Overland.
I mean, I can find a meeting room.
Yeah.
It's just,
well, we have another room upstairs.
We would fit in there.
does it have audio visual capabilities?
We have everything here.
Okay,
This is about the best for you, right? You're the
Yeah.
farthest
I-
afield.
People are welcome to come to Uwima, but no one wants to drive there.
Great idea.
She
We
works
do.
for
We
maybe
love
farthest,
it.
but she lives in
Yeah.
this.
Yes,
Oh, you live there.
I live in Vista.
okay, one more time, April 6th, 1 PM, April 26th, 2 PM. That concludes item 5D, future meeting locations,
Yes, she
and
says, yes, we can fit 10 people upstairs.
even better.
Okay.
Thanks, Mary. We'll move on to 5E real quick, requests or comments or by any committee members that wasn't discussed today. Having seen none, that concludes 5E, and it will move to item 6, which is our adjournment. So this meeting is adjourned on March 22nd at 3:50, and thank you for everybody for their participation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.